Mark pays for everything with his credit card to collect points, while David strictly uses cash and his debit card for daily expenses. Both of them earn the exact same salary and live in the exact same neighborhood. Both of them are completely convinced that their payment method is the smartest and most financially disciplined choice. Both of them are wrong because they ignore how psychological triggers completely alter their spending behavior over time. Mark looks at his massive airline reward miles balance, feeling like a travel hacker who beats the system, while David looks at his empty wallet, believing he is completely safe from debt. But the banking system and consumer psychology have an unforgiving, brutal reality. Today, I'm going to show you the raw, uncensored numbers, the hidden interest fees, and the silent wealth drain. By the time we reach the end of this 10-year journey, the actual difference in their net worth and the heavy psychological price each man pays will leave you absolutely shocked. To make this comparison absolutely fair, we must establish a perfectly equal starting point. Mark and David are both 30 years old, working stable corporate jobs with an identical net monthly income of exactly $4,000. Over years of disciplined budgeting, each has managed to accumulate a clean cash savings nest egg of exactly $20,000, sitting safely in a basic bank account. Their living standards, rent, utility bills, and grocery baskets are completely identical. There is only one single variable separating their paths: how they swipe their cards at the checkout counter. Mark uses his Premium Rewards credit card for literally every single purchase, from a $2 morning coffee to his monthly rent and grocery shopping. He treats his credit card as free money, paying the statement balance off every month, at least most of the time, while collecting cashback bonuses and luxury travel points. David, on the other hand, strictly refuses to own a credit card. He operates entirely on cash and a standard debit card linked directly to his checking account. If the cash is not physically in his wallet or his debit balance, he simply does not buy the item. He believes this strict physical limitation is the ultimate shield against impulse buying and modern consumer debt. The first 3 years pass smoothly, and both characters feel completely vindicated in their choices. Mark is living an absolute lifestyle dream. Every few months, he receives notifications about thousands of accumulated reward points. He books discounted flights, stays in upgraded hotel rooms using his credit card perks, and feels like a financial genius who is legally exploiting the banking system for free luxury. When his friends see him tapping his sleek metal card at high-end restaurants, they admire his lifestyle. Mark believes that using cash is an outdated, financially illiterate habit that leaves free money on the table. David's life, however, looks entirely different, marked by a deep sense of psychological control. Whenever David wants to buy a new gadget or an expensive clothing item, he has to physically watch the cash leave his hand or see his debit card account balance instantly drop. This painful psychological friction forces him to think twice before every single purchase. He rarely buys anything on impulse. While Mark is accumulating reward points, David is quietly keeping his monthly discretionary spending 20% lower than Mark's. By the end of the third year, David's pure savings buffer has grown to $32,000, fueled by his strict physical limits. Mark's savings look similar on paper, but he has started occasionally carrying a small, manageable balance on his credit card statement, telling himself he will easily clear it next month. As they enter the fifth year, the cold, unforgiving mathematics of human psychology and consumer debt begin to crash down. Mark hits his first major financial stumble. A sudden medical emergency and an expensive car repair hit him in the exact same month, totaling $3,500. Because Mark has grown accustomed to using his credit card as an extension of his income, he puts the entire expense on plastic. However, due to his lifestyle inflation, dining out more often and booking trips with his points, he cannot pay off the full statement balance when it arrives. He pays the minimum required amount, thinking it is no big deal. This single decision triggers a massive financial trap. The credit card company applies a steep 24% annual percentage rate, known as APR, to the remaining balance. What started as a $3,000 emergency quickly balloons into a persistent, lingering debt. Mark finds himself trapped in a revolving debt cycle where a massive chunk of his monthly salary goes strictly toward paying high-interest bank fees. Every time he tries to catch up, another travel deal or dinner pops up, and he swipes his card again. By the 8th year, Mark has accumulated over $12,000 in high-interest credit card debt, completely erasing all the financial benefits of the reward points he spent years collecting. His credit score, once pristine, begins to take a noticeable hit as his credit utilization ratio spikes past 70%. David faces an entirely different set of psychological hurdles and hidden costs. While David avoided toxic credit card debt completely, his strict debit and cash lifestyle created a major blind spot regarding financial infrastructure and fraud protection. In the 6th year, David's debit card is compromised during an online transaction, and unauthorized charges drain $1,500 directly from his checking account. Because debit cards do not offer the same robust, legally mandated federal fraud protections and zero liability policies as credit cards, David spends 4 agonizing months fighting with his bank to recover his stolen money. He wins the battle eventually, but during those 4 months, he experiences severe cash flow stress, forcing him to dip into his emergency fund. Furthermore, David realizes that by refusing to use credit entirely, his credit score remains thin and stagnant. When he attempts to apply for a small business loan to start a side venture, the bank offers him a drastically higher interest rate because he lacks a proven, robust credit history. David discovers that the modern financial system is heavily rigged against people who do not play the credit game, penalizing them just as harshly as those who abuse it. Despite these hurdles, David's disciplined spending habits keep his core savings growing. By the 8th year, his total liquid net worth has reached $54,000, entirely free of toxic consumer debt. By the time we reach the 10th year, the ultimate financial destiny of both men is fully revealed. They are now 40 years old, entering the prime of their careers. Mark finds himself exhausted by the constant weight of financial anxiety. Over the decade, the invisible psychological trap of credit cards completely warped his spending habits. Studies consistently show that people spend up to 30% more when paying with plastic compared to cash because the physical pain of paying is removed. Mark fell victim to this exact neurological trigger. Even though his salary increased over the years, his lifestyle inflated right alongside it. He bought clothes he did not need, ordered food delivery constantly, and justified it all by looking at his airline miles. At year 10, Mark's total credit card interest payments over the decade have exceeded $15,000, completely wiping out any monetary value he gained from rewards. His net worth stands at a modest $35,000, dragged down heavily by consumer debt and a lifestyle built on financial illusion. He is trapped on a corporate treadmill, forced to keep working a stressful job just to service his monthly debt statements. David finds himself in a completely contrasting financial universe. By strictly controlling his spending triggers through cash and debit usage, he avoided the lifestyle inflation trap that destroyed Mark. Over 10 years, David accumulated a total liquid net worth of $82,000, sitting safely in high-yield savings accounts and diversified index funds. He never paid a single cent of interest to a bank, never financed a vacation, and never bought a luxury item he could not afford to pay for twice over in cash. David possesses complete psychological peace of mind. When he looks at his bank account, every single dollar belongs to him, untainted by debt obligations. He can sleep soundly at night, knowing that a sudden economic downturn will not trigger a cascade of high-interest credit card penalties. Yet, it would be deeply unfair to declare David the undisputed winner without examining the massive efficiency and perks he missed out on. Mark actually possessed a powerful financial tool. His fatal flaw was a lack of self-discipline, not the plastic card itself. If Mark had treated his credit card strictly like a debit card, only spending money he physically possessed and paying the full balance every single month without fail, the math would look entirely different. Mark would have accumulated hundreds of thousands of reward points, secured free flights around the world, enjoyed top-tier travel insurance, and built an elite credit score that would allow him to secure cheap mortgages and business loans with zero friction. The credit card companies did not steal Mark's money. Mark voluntarily handed his money over to them because his brain was tricked by the frictionless design of plastic payments. On the other hand, we must address the rigid limitations of David's extreme cash and debit strategy. While David saved himself from toxic debt, he missed out on thousands of dollars in free cashback rewards. sign-up bonuses, and automated fraud protection that banks freely give to disciplined users. Furthermore, David's rigid avoidance of credit cards made navigating modern life unnecessarily difficult. In today's digital economy, renting a car, booking hotel rooms, and making online international purchases without a credit card is a logistical nightmare filled with blocked holds and denied transactions. David paid an emotional price of constant friction and administrative hassle simply because he feared the tool rather than fixing his own behavioral discipline. Now that we have stripped away the marketing myths, which payment method is the right one for your daily life? The answer depends entirely on your self-awareness and psychological relationship with money. You should choose David's strict cash and debit approach if you know deep down that you lack the impulse control to resist spending money you do not have. If the presence of a plastic card with a credit limit causes your brain to rationalize unnecessary purchases, then eliminating credit cards is the single best financial move you can make. It forces you to live within your exact means, protects you from revolving interest debt, and keeps your consumer instincts safely grounded in physical reality. Conversely, you should choose Mark's disciplined credit card approach if, and only if, you possess ironclad self-control. If you treat a credit card precisely like a debit card, never spending a single dollar you cannot immediately pay off, then using a rewards credit card is mathematically superior. You get free fraud protection, extended warranties on purchases, and lucrative cashback percentages that effectively discount everything you buy. However, you must view the credit card not as extra income, but purely as a secure payment gateway. If you fail to respect this boundary, the system will exploit your psychological weaknesses. At the end of the day, there is no single universal winner in this financial debate. Real wealth is never just about the points you accumulate or the cash in your wallet. It is about understanding how your own brain reacts to the pain of paying. The real trap is blaming the financial tool instead of mastering your own behavior. Do you want the safety net of cash and strict psychological boundaries, even if it means missing out on rewards and facing modern transaction friction? Or do you want the maximum rewards and elite financial leverage of credit cards, even if it requires military-grade discipline to avoid the debt trap? Only you can answer this question, and the decision you make will shape your entire financial future. Choose wisely because your money is always listening.